The worst slums are those where nothing changes. People who have lived there for years look old and tired. They don't even know how to dream anymore because if you can't see a way out of your neighborhood, why bother dreaming? This is why all the neighbors of Villa 31 in Buenos Aires thought of Juan Domingo Perón as a miracle worker when he came to power. He promised to turn the shanty town into one of the most modern neighborhoods in the city. And more importantly, he promised to get rid of poverty. At least that's what they told him during the campaign. But once he was elected, the residents saw that it was just another lie by the politician. In this slum, there were two groups of people, the lucky ones who had jobs and the unlucky ones who had nothing at all. And among the latter was a guy named Diego. He didn't beg. He was too proud for that. Instead, he run family's small plot of land near the railway tracks, collecting discarded items and selling them to the local junkyard. From the age of 12, he earned his own money this way and helped his family survive. Sometimes he found things that were still quite usable among the garbage, clothes, shoes, books, kitchen utensils. Then he took these things to the local market, traded them in for food, and brought the money back home. His mother used to say that Diego was like a little ferret, quick and dexterous. She loved her son very much and tried to protect him from the hardships of life as best she could. But what kind of protection can you offer if you live in a slum? Diego's father left the family when the boy was still very young. According to rumors, he was killed in a fight over territory with some drug dealers. So Diego grew up without a father and with 5 sisters. Money was always in short supply. That's why when Diego was 10, he had to switch from school to work. He got up every morning before sunrise and went to sort through the trash. He did this 7 days a week, wearing the same dirty t-shirt and torn sneakers. Even so, Diego managed to save a few bucks and buy himself a pair of running shoes. Of course, they weren't top quality, but they were still better than the ones he had. For Diego, these sneakers were a symbol of hope, a reminder that one day he would become a great runner and break away from his miserable life. He practiced every day after work, running around the shanty town. The other kids made fun of him. They called him the recycler runner, but Diego didn't care. He kept running, dreaming of becoming a famous athlete one day. All the guys from the neighborhood played football, but not Diego. It wasn't that he disliked the sport. It was just that he knew he wouldn't make it as a footballer. He was too poor to buy decent shoes, too skinny to compete with the other boys, and too hungry because he never got enough to eat at home. On the other hand, running didn't require any equipment or skills. You just had to have good shoes and be healthy. But the thing was, Diego was anything but healthy. He often got sick because he slept on a bare dirt floor, breathed in polluted air, and ate food that fell off trucks. Still, he didn't give up. Every time he felt like he was about to get sick, he ran even harder. He hoped that one day his efforts would pay off. One day, Diego met an old man named Hector. The man had been living in the slum for a long time, ever since he was kicked out of his house by his own father. The old man couldn't find a job anywhere, so he started begging on the streets. One day, Hector noticed the young man running around the shanty town and decided to approach him. He asked Diego why he was doing it, and the kid replied that he wanted to become a famous runner. The old man smiled sadly and said, "You'll never make it, kiddo. You're too poor. No one will ever come to watch a race in this dump." But Diego didn't listen to him and continued training. Soon, word got around the shanty town that there was a strange kid who spent all his free time running. Some people thought he was crazy. Others said that the kid was possessed by demons. But the fact remained that Diego kept running, slowly getting faster and stronger. Soon, he began winning local street races. At first, it was just some kids from the neighborhood competing for beer and cigarettes. But later, the races attracted more and more spectators. Diego was already a legend in Villa 31. They called him the Speedy Flea. People bet on him, putting up money and sometimes their shoes. Because of this, Diego was able to buy himself new sneakers almost every month. When he was 18, Diego learned that there was going to be a big race in Buenos Aires, a competition between teams from different parts of the city. On the day of the race, Diego put on a pair of brand new sneakers. They were bright red, and made him feel like a real professional athlete. Unfortunately, his team didn't have a uniform, so Diego ran in just shorts and those very sneakers. The race was long and intense. There were many participants, and Diego found himself in the middle of the pack. However, in the final stretch, he gathered all his strength and raced ahead. When he crossed the finish line, Diego was out of breath, but he managed to win. People cheered, and he heard someone shouting, "Long live the flea!" But then he saw a man in a suit walking towards him. It was the organizer of the race. Diego thought he was going to congratulate him, but he heard something else. "Where are the rest of your team members? Why aren't they here?" Diego hesitated. Should he tell the truth? If he did, they would probably disqualify him. But what if they didn't find out? He decided to risk it. They had to go home," he lied. "I'm sorry." The organizer frowned, but he didn't insist. Instead, he handed Diego a check for $1,000 and wished him luck in the next races. Diego couldn't believe his luck. He was the champion. He was only 18 and he'd already won the most important race in Buenos Aires. Maybe his life would really change now. He could finally help his mom and sisters, maybe even buy them a house. But no one expected that a couple of days later, Diego would be back collecting trash. The guy from the race contacted the police and they launched an investigation. It turned out that Diego was homeless and had no one to support him. Seeing this, the man offered to take the kid under his wing, to become his manager. At first, Diego was hesitant. He thought maybe this guy just wanted to use him, but he was desperate and needed money. Plus, the guy seemed nice, so he agreed to the offer. After the race, Diego became a star. He gave interviews, appeared on TV shows, and was invited to all kinds of events. He traveled all over South America, raced against the best athletes and won. Once he even competed against a famous Brazilian runner and beat him. That's how Diego became famous, though not the kind of fame he'd dreamed of. Now everyone knew him as the runner from the slums, the barefoot champion. He was featured in documentaries, wrote autobiographies, and had fans. But even despite all the attention, Diego never forgot where he came from. He never changed his manners, remained humble, and continued to help those in need. So do you think Diego ever got out of poverty? To find out what happened to Diego, listen to the next chapter. But remember, only you have the power to make yourself happy. Everything else is secondary. Goodbye.